Hello, teachers, and welcome back to school. My name is Jackson Zabo, and I am the Director of Curriculum here at Top Score Writing. We have created a presentation for you about starting school using Top Score Writing. Start your school year off right. So this presentation is going to help you get prepared with our curriculum to make sure that your students are successful. So let's begin our presentation right now. Planning for a successful year. Planning is key. Before starting the year, plan with your colleagues what writing goals and lessons you want to accomplish with your students for the first 3 months of school. After 3 months, meet together as a team to reevaluate the plan. So make sure that you are checking off the skills that you want to teach in the first 3 months of school, and then working backwards in your calendar to make sure that you teach all of those skills in that amount of time. It's very, very important to plan with your colleagues so that everybody's doing what they're supposed to be doing and are on the same page at the same time. Utilize our pacing guides. So our pacing guides are included within our digital and printed curriculum. Use the pacing guide with your grade level team to make sure you stay on track throughout the year. Review progress during PLC or grade level meetings. So you can use our general pacing guide, literally starting week by week, and go through the weeks and make sure that you're fulfilling all of these skills and teaching these skills within your classroom. And by springtime, when you have your state assessment, your students should be fully prepared. So this, you can do it week by week, and it will totally prepare your students for the state assessment. However, a lot of teachers like to go through our pacing guide and either cross off skills that their students already know or provide more time with certain skills that they think were harder for their students to understand. So make sure that you go through the pacing guide and you plan accordingly. Plan backwards using the pacing guide in your calendar. Pick and choose skills, lessons that your kids may need more practice with, or skills and lessons that they already know that you don't have to teach. Plan to start instruction within the first month of school so that students are fully prepared for the state assessment in the spring. I know the first week is a lot of review, a lot of getting things organized, but most teachers start their instruction for writing the second or third week of school. If you do that, you will be perfectly ready to go for that state assessment in the spring. Your writing schedule. All right, so make sure that you start to figure out what that writing schedule looks like. So plan your writing block before school starts. Remember, lessons vary from 30 to 60 minutes in length, and we want you to be teaching every single day. So option 1 is to teach 1 lesson per day in a 45 to 60 minute writing block. This option is very rare. A lot of teachers do not use this option because they don't have 45 to 60 minutes to teach writing every day. So most teachers use option 2 or option 3. Option 2 is 1 lesson per day in 20 to 30 minutes. And then anything extra that they don't finish in that lesson, they put in their ELA centers or their ELA rotation. They also use win time or homework, or in the mornings before school, before announcements. A lot of students come in around 7:35-ish. Announcements are at 8. They have a good 20-25 minutes in order to finish some writing instruction at that time. Option 3 is 2 days per lesson in a 20 to 30 minute writing block. Remember, you're teaching for 5 days, every single day within the school week. However, some lessons can be 2 days long. So we want you to make sure that you're getting through at least 2 to 3 lessons per week. That means that some lessons may take longer than 1 day, which is perfectly fine to do. So manage your writing block. An example writing block for a week could look something like this. So on Monday, you would do lesson 11, the modeled and guided practice. Remember, the modeled is going to be you modeling that skill. The guided practice is going to be you and your students practicing that skill. So on Monday, you would do lesson 11, the modeled and guided practice. Then on Tuesday, you would do lesson 11, which is your independent practice. This is where students are going to be doing something on their own, and you are going to be checking for mastery. You are also on that day going to observe and conference with students. Then on Wednesday, you're going to do lesson 12, modeled and guided practice. Thursday, lesson 12, independent practice, and observe and conference. On Friday, you could possibly have a skill group day or a revision day, which usually has stations. So some stations that you could have would be a self-assess and revise station. This is where students are going to be taking their work that they did throughout the week, and they're going to be self-assessing and revising using the checklist. You could also have a teacher-led skill group. This could be a skill group with you at the back table working on something that students were struggling on during your week. And then you're going to do a station that could possibly be a skill-specific activity. For instance, you could pull up the videos on your digital license on your smartboard and have students that were struggling with, let's say, your introduction paragraph. They're going to do the review video or the teacher-led video on your digital license on introduction paragraph. So this could be one way to kind of set up your writing block for the week. Another example of a writing block in a week could be something like this. Monday, you're going to do lesson 11, modeled and guided practice. Tuesday, lesson 11, independent practice, and 2 skill groups. Wednesday, you only need 1 day to teach lesson 12. Thursday, lesson 13, modeled and guided practice. Friday, lesson 13, independent practice, and 2 skill groups. Remember, we want a mixture of whole group instruction, small group instruction, activities, and conferencing. So this is why these 2 writing block schedules work. Once you have your writing block in place and you know the timing of what you're going to be doing, you're going to make sure that you make your copies. Some teachers have to make their own copies. We know a lot of schools that have volunteers that do copying for teachers. So make sure after planning for your writing block that you make copies of the required student activity pages and passages. It's very important to have these copies made because you cannot teach your lessons without having the passages and the activities for your students to have. If your students have consumable books, remember our passage books or our activity books, copies will not need to be made. So you do not need to make copies if your students have those consumables. Copy and set up assessment resources. Please make sure you go through the assessment resources. It depends on the grade level, what you are given. But you're going to want to make sure that you make copies of the skill trackers and informal assessment checklists. So if you have both of those things, or if you've one of those things based upon your grade level, make sure you have copies of them. Make sure you have a clipboard so that you can put those on there. And then start filling out your students' names on each assessment resource before school starts. Remember, this takes some time to do this. Remember, you have to have your roster in place. So I always tell teachers, get yourself ready to go so you don't have to do it later on. Check out your digital accounts if you have a digital license. So if you've purchased a digital license, make sure to access and familiarize yourself with the platform before school starts. You should have received an email with your username, password, and access instructions. If you did not receive that email, please check out your junk or spam folder because sometimes they get sent there. If you do not see it in junk or spam, please feel free to email me at Katie, Katie, @topscorewriting.com, and we can figure that out together. Make sure that you watch the video on the main page to better understand how to navigate the platform as well as how to find all the resources provided. So it's very important that you access your digital account. You go on and you're going to see Lisa, our CEO and author, navigate you through Canvas, which is our platform for our digital license, so that you understand how to use it as well as where to find all of our resources. Also, check out our other free resources. So first, check out our state-specific pages. We only have state-specific pages for Arizona, Georgia, Florida, Indiana, Mississippi, Nevada, New Mexico, Ohio, Virginia, West Virginia, and Missouri. If your state is not listed, we do not have a state page for you. However, you can always check us out at topscorewriting.com. If you do have a state-specific page, you're going to go to topscorewriting.com/state. We also have provided our Linktree page. So there are many free resources on this page that are not in the printed or digital curriculum. Let's say that you're teaching introduction paragraph, it's a Friday, and you want to do something more fun, more engaging, something different with your students. You may want to check out our Linktree page and check out if there's any activities on introduction paragraph. Right? So this is something different than our curriculum, something extra. It is linktr.ee/topscorewriting. Also, join our Facebook teacher support group. It's called VIP Teachers. If you have a question, ask there. It will certainly be answered by the thousands of teachers nationwide who have joined. There are also fun giveaways throughout the year, so be on the lookout. Lisa Cullum, our CEO and author, usually gives a lot of free giveaways throughout the year, especially at the beginning of the year and during the holidays. So please be on the lookout. $100 Amazon gift cards, Dunkin' Donuts, Starbucks gift cards, lots of things that teachers love. So be on the lookout for those. Another thing that you want to think about doing before school starts is creating your anchor charts. So start to create anchor charts of the skills you will be teaching your students. Skim and scan the lessons to see which anchor charts to create. You're going to see in our curriculum that we tell you to create certain anchor charts. So please go through your curriculum and start making those anchor charts based upon the information in each of those lessons. The timing breakdown is an important anchor chart to start with so that students understand how much time they have for each part of their essay. Some states are timed with their state assessment and some are not. However, a lot of teachers use our timing breakdown to create stamina with their students. So please, please, please make sure that students should only be reading 20 to 30 minutes. Planning for 10 to 15 minutes, and then writing their actual essay 60 to 75 minutes. Any extra time should be for editing. We then went a step further to break down the actual essay writing part. So those 60 to 75 minutes, the first paragraph should be 5 to 10 minutes. Second, third, and fourth, those body paragraphs should be 15 to 20 minutes, and the fifth paragraph should be 5 to 10. In order to create stamina, participation, engagement with your students, start to time them. That creates competition within your classroom. So let's say that you just finished introduction paragraph and you want to check for mastery. You could give your students a prompt and have them write an introduction paragraph, and you time them using this timing breakdown. So this creates stamina within your classroom as well as fun games and competition that keeps your students engaged. All right, plan to give students the pretest before starting your writing instruction. So most teachers give the pretest the first or second week of school. You are going to use the rubrics provided or your state rubrics to score just like the state assessment is scored. So if you are a tested grade level, you are going to use your state rubrics. If you are not a tested grade level and your state does not have a rubric for you, you are going to use our rubrics that are provided in the curriculum. The pretest provides a baseline for each of your students. You will now see each student's strengths and weaknesses. This helps you determine what skills you need to teach or review and what skills students have already mastered. This will help you to pick out those main skills in section 1 so that you are planning on focusing on a certain amount of time for each of those skills, or you're totally not even doing them because your students already know those skills. This also helps you determine your small groups based on student strengths and weaknesses. So this allows you to see what skills or weaknesses each student has so that you can create your small groups with a rhyme or reason for what you're doing. After After the pretest, use the conferencing notes assessment resource as a profile for each student in your class. So we use this as conferencing. However, you can use this as a profile for each of your kids as well. So this resource, this assessment resource, acts as two things, conferencing notes as well as profiles. So what you do is you're going to take your students' names and put each student at the top of one of these little boxes. So as you can see, they are in red. So our names are there. You're going to split the box into however many grade periods you have. For instance, if it's trimesters, you're going to make 3 boxes, as you can see in blue. Every grading period, you're going to analyze your students' writing skills. So I have September, December, and March, where we're analyzing students' core skills that they're struggling with. Then you're going to write those core skills that they're struggling with each time you analyze into the correlating box. So in September, you're going to start off when students are coming to you and they're fresh to your classroom, those core main skills that students are struggling with. You're going to use those pre-tests in order to determine those skills. Then in December, that list is going to get smaller because some of those skills were mastered in the fall. So in December, you're going to do the same thing. You're going to go ahead and you're going to write down all of the core skills that students are struggling with in December. And then once again, you're going to do it in March, right before the test. Remember that that list will either be non-existent or only have a few things that you're going to have to tweak before that state assessment. So this shows as a profile. Throughout the year, set these sheets out on a table to determine your skill groups. So now you have a rhyme or reason for what you're doing, and you're able to pick skill groups based upon students' weaknesses. Plan to review. We know students, they just got back from a 2.5 month vacation. They act like they totally forgot what they learned last year. So we've got to make sure that we review with our students. So if your students have used top score writing in previous years and have strong foundational skills, review for 2 to 3 weeks using section 1. If your students are new to top score writing, you've never used top score writing, you're new. Top score writing is new in your school. Spend at least the first month of school teaching section 1. Section 1 is our basic foundations. If they've never seen our basic foundations and what the structure format of an essay is, you're going to have to start and do all of section 1. You should start section 2 4 to 6 weeks into the school year if you are teaching a tested grade level. Most states are tested in text-based expository or informative. They are also tested in text-based argumentative opinion writing. And then some states are also tested in narrative. So sections 2, 3, and 4 are very important to get through. Make sure students are comfortable with the basic foundations of writing. They must know the format and structure of an essay, which doesn't change as they progress through the grade levels. It's very important that they know those basic foundations. If you are in a grade level that is not tested, take your time on basic foundations. Those teachers that are in tested grade levels will thank you later. So it's very important that they have those basic foundations because that's what we build upon. Remember, our structure, our format never changes. We're just building upon the basic foundations. How do I know where to start? All right, so if you are in a tested grade level, usually this is grades 4 through 10th grade, sometimes all the way up through 12th grade. Sometimes this includes 3rd grade as well. If you're in a tested grade level, this is what I want you to do. I want you to follow this flow chart to determine where to start in section 1. So if your student can write a 3 to 4 sentence introduction paragraph that includes a hook, a 3 topics or reason sentence, and a closing statement using proper punctuation and capitalization, then you're going to move on into the flowchart. If they cannot write an effective, satisfying introduction paragraph that includes all of these things, you're going to teach all of section 1 non-text-based expository writing. If they can write that satisfying, effective introduction that includes all of this, then we're going to go to the second part of the flowchart. So if they can write that satisfying, effective introduction and 2 to 3 middle paragraphs that include a topic sentence, 6 to 8 sentences about that topic, and a wrap-up sentence in each, Then they're going to go on to the third part of the flow chart. If they cannot write a satisfying, effective introduction, as well as those 2 to 3 middle paragraphs, then you're going to review section 1, lessons 6, 7, 11, and 14. And then let's say that they did write a satisfying, effective introduction and 2 to 3 middle paragraphs with all these components. Then they have to make sure that they can write all of those as well as a satisfying conclusion that has a summary sentence, restates the topic's reasons, and has a thought feeling sentence. If they can, you are going to totally skip section 1. If they cannot write an intro, 2 to 3 middle paragraphs with all of these components up here, as well as a satisfying conclusion paragraph that has a summary sentence, restates the 3 topics or reasons, and a thought feeling sentence, then you're going to review section 1, lessons 11 and 14. So it's very, very important that you go through and you check to see which students understand these concepts. If most of your students cannot understand these concepts, you are going to start accordingly. If you have a few, you may be able to tweak those students' writing using small group instruction, right? So this can help you in order to figure out where to start in section 1. Some teachers tell me they don't need the flow chart at all. They're going to make sure that they're going to review, and they want some skills that they know that they need to review. So if students are proficient at foundational writing skills, it is still beneficial to review before starting text-based writing. Like I told you, summertime, they're on a break, they kind of forget things. We got to make sure that we review. So a lot of teachers ask, what are some of the skills that students usually struggle with that I should focus on in section 1? So we made a list here. Number 1 is introduction paragraph. Make sure that you look at that lesson in section 1. Also, middle paragraphs, T, 3 to 4 for A and 3 to 4 for B. Also, longer A and B sentences and conclusion paragraphs. So go ahead and check out those lessons to review with your students in section 1. State sample papers. This is the Florida state sample papers, but most states have sample papers. There are a few that don't, but a lot of states have sample papers. Please make sure that you find them and print them out for your students and for you. Start early on conversing about these papers with your students. It's so important that they can see these sample papers and what is considered a perfect score and what takes points off. Show sample essays and analyze the scores with your students. Have your students assess sample papers and revise them. Great way for your students to have really good conversations and to revise. Also, find and print out your state's writing rubrics. Start having conversations about these rubrics with your students. Students should know the skills components that they will be scored on. If you are a tested grade level, you should be using these to score your essays in class and score your students' essays with your colleagues to align scoring with the state. So make sure that you have your rubrics, make sure you make copies for your students so that they understand what they're going to be scored on. Most importantly, make writing fun. Plan some fun activities to keep your students engaged. So we got to make sure that we go through our calendars and we pick some days out that we're going to do some fun writing activities. So here are some ideas. The first one is a writing seminar. You could totally get your principal to get on to the announcements and say, all right, 4th and 5th graders, you have a writing seminar in the cafeteria today. Make sure that you have all of your writing materials and head to the cafeteria at 10 a.m. And when your students get there, you're going to do the exact same lesson that you would do in the classroom, but you're going to do it in the cafeteria. You're going to be standing on the podium. You're going to make it look like a seminar, and your kids are going to love it. Why? Because you've changed the environment. You're doing something different with your lesson. You're putting the kids together. Maybe you have exit tickets or fun prizes that they can win or candy, whatever it may be. A seminar and just changing the environment can make a big difference with your students and their participation and their excitement for writing. Table writing. This is where you set up different tables around your room. One table may be for the introduction paragraph. The other table should be for T1. Then we have a table for T2, then a table for T3, and then one for the conclusion paragraph. So as students are writing and finishing up each part of their essay, they're moving to each table. You could also have writing around the room. Have your students bring in blankets and pillows, maybe do flashlights where you're writing in the dark and they're making forts underneath their desks. They're writing with a partner, they're all over your room. Yes, it's chaotic. However, if you do this once a month and it's an incentive for them to have every other day and be perfect and do amazing work, it's worth that 1 hour of chaos, right? So do something fun where you're writing around the room with partners, glow sticks, flashlights, in the dark, whatever it may be. Partner writing on anchor chart paper. This is where you give anchor chart paper and your students write their essays on there and then teach the class. Pair up with another grade level. You could always have your 4th graders pair with 5th graders. They teach each other. Student exchange program where you're doing something maybe once or twice a month and they're going back and forth and teaching each other and checking each other's papers. So these are just a few of the fun writing ideas that we have, but keep writing fun. If you need to contact us at all throughout the year, please feel free to do so. You have our email for digital. So if you have a digital question, digital@topscorewriting.com is where you're going to email. Jennifer Jones, she's the Chief Academic Officer. She is jen@topscorewriting.com. And then myself, I'm the Director of Curriculum, Katie at Topscore You can email me anytime if you have any questions. I look forward to working with all of you this school year. Please feel free, like I said, to contact me anytime if you have any questions. And good luck with your school year. Have a great year.